You ever felt like you get overwhelmed way too easily while other people seem to just float through life unfazed? Or maybe you shut down in situations that when you look at it, you're like, this shouldn't feel like too much, but somehow it does. You're not overreacting and you're not dramatic and you're not too sensitive. It's your nervous system and it's doing exactly what it learned to do to protect you. But if your nervous system got overwhelmed at some point in your life and no one ever showed it how to feel safe again, then there's a really good chance that it got stuck in survival mode. And that leaves you caught up in cycles of chronic dysregulation. This is especially common for people who experience trauma or long-term stress because those experiences, they actually change how our brain and our body talk to our nervous system. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. So this is lesson 3 of my 8-part mini course here on YouTube that focuses on understanding and healing your nervous system. If you missed the earlier lessons, I highly recommend that you go back and watch them. They'll give you the foundation for what we're diving into now. But for today, for now, you're right here where you need to be. So in our last lesson, we explored how to recognize the different states of your nervous system, like fight, flight, freeze, collapse, and fawn, and how they might show up uniquely in your body. And now we're going to zoom out and look at why some nervous systems get stuck in these patterns of dysregulation more easily than others. Because when we understand what shaped our patterns, it becomes so much easier to meet ourselves with compassion. And that makes all the difference. So I truly believe that our nervous system is at the heart of our life, way more than most of us realize. It's the foundation for all the changes that we crave. So whether that's healing old wounds, creating new habits, experiencing more love and connection in our life, or simply living with a greater sense of ease and authenticity. So that means that it's powerful and important for each of us to understand our nervous system better and to learn how to work with it instead of against it. So before we get into the science, let's talk about a word that brings up a lot of questions and a lot of feelings for people: trauma. So trauma isn't actually what happened to you. It's what happened inside of your nervous system in response to what happened to you. It's anything that was too much, too fast, or too soon for your nervous system to handle at that time. Or it was a stressful experience that lasted too long without enough support. So sometimes it's a single overwhelming event. Other times it's a buildup of smaller experiences that never got fully processed. But in either case, if your nervous system didn't have what it needed to fully move through what it experienced, there's a really good chance that it got stuck in protective mode. And it's that stuckness that leads to chronic dysregulation, where your system stays braced even long after the stress is over. So this can happen after shock trauma, like an accident, a sudden loss, or an assault, or after years of chronic stress that built up and never found a way out, or even from early childhood experiences when our nervous system was really impressionable. So whatever the cause, the effect is the same. It's a system that was overwhelmed and that never got the chance to reset. And this is how people end up wired for dysregulation, not because they're broken or because they're failing, but because their nervous system never learned how to feel safe again. This is not a character flaw, it's a pattern. So chronic dysregulation, it's not a personal failing. It's a pattern that our system learned to keep us safe. And that survival response, the shutting down, the checking out, the spiraling, the overworking, the people pleasing, it wasn't a failure. It was your body doing exactly what it thought it needed to do to protect you. And it worked because you're here right now today. You survived. And that's really the nervous system's number one goal. The problem is the nervous system often craves what's familiar to it, even if what's familiar doesn't feel good or doesn't serve us anymore. So that's why we get stuck in loops that are hard to break. It's why change can feel so hard. Even when we really want something different, our nervous system might instinctively resist it. So maybe you've heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score, or heard someone say that trauma gets stuck in the body. Let's break down now what that actually means. So, when something overwhelms us and we can't respond in a way that completes the survival response, like we can't fight back, we can't run, we can't cry or speak up for ourselves, we can't shake it off, then our system gears up, but it never finishes the cycle. And that energy of gearing up, it can get stuck in us. So it's like our nervous system opens 47 tabs in the background, but never closes any of them. And those open tabs, they keep running, draining us of energy, even if we're not consciously aware of them. And over time, that unprocessed stress accumulates. And instead of returning to balance, our system starts to stay stuck in protective mode, tense, bracing, or checked out. And this is how we get locked into cycles of dysregulation. So how does this stuck stress actually show up? And why is it so hard to shift? To understand that, we need to look at the loop between our brain and our body, the two places our nervous system is always listening to. So our brain and our body, they form a feedback loop. And that loop informs our nervous system, right? Our brain is constantly sending signals down to our body, and our body is constantly sending signals back up to our brain. And our nervous system is always listening, reading all of those signals to answer one crucial question. Am I safe or am I in danger right now? Now, this loop, it gets disrupted when we've experienced trauma or chronic stress. So let's start by looking at the brain's side of that loop, right? Our brain uses information from our 5 senses, what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, to help the nervous system assess whether we're safe or in danger. But here's the twist. We don't actually see with our eyes or hear with our ears. We see and hear with our brain, because it's our brain that interprets what our senses pick up. And our brain has been shaped by our past. So if we've lived through trauma or long-term stress, our brain starts reading the world through a different lens. One of the most significant changes that occurs in our brain when we experience traumatic and chronic stress is that the older parts of our brain, the ones designed to protect us, like our amygdala in the limbic system and the periaqueductal gray in the brainstem, they often become overly sensitive. So these are the areas that operate completely outside of our conscious awareness. And when they get sensitized, they start sounding the alarm bells of danger at the smallest signs of trouble. And it's like living with a faulty alarm system in our house that keeps going off even though nobody's trying to break in. So our protective mechanisms become oversensitized. And at the same time, the part of our brain that helps us think clearly, our rational brain, that also changes. It starts to get quiet or even go offline when we become stressed. So our survival brain gets louder and our rational brain gets quieter and less accessible. That's why after a stressful experience, when our rational brain comes back online, we often think like, I knew that wasn't a big deal, but it felt huge. Or I didn't want to react like that, but I couldn't stop it. This is not a mindset problem. And it's not a willpower issue. It's our survival wiring doing exactly what it was built to do, protect us. It's just that when we've lived through chronic stress or traumatic stress, the wires of our survival system, they get a little crossed. And remember, our nervous system is looking to our brain to help decide whether we're safe or in danger. So when those wires get a little crossed, then our brain starts to register danger, even if there isn't any. And that means our nervous system goes into protective mode way more often than it needs to, which leaves us prone to chronic dysregulation. And dysregulation isn't bad, right? It's our body trying to protect us. But spending a lot of our time there is uncomfortable and it makes everything in life harder. And remember, the brain is only one part of this brain-body loop. So our nervous system is also looking to our body. And honestly, it's looking to our body even more than it's looking to our brain, right? As it tries to figure out if we're safe or in danger. It's looking to our heartbeat, our breath, how tense or relaxed our muscles are, the feelings in our gut. These sensations, they matter so much, and so does our ability to actually feel them, to sense what's happening inside of us, and to connect with the messages that our body is sending to us. And this ability to interpret these internal signals, it's called interoception. And just like traumatic and chronic stress can rewire our brain, it can also disrupt our interoceptive capacity. So sometimes the volume of those body signals gets turned way down, so we start to feel numb or disconnected. And other times it gets turned up way too loud, and everything starts to feel overwhelming and overstimulating. Either way, the messages get distorted. And that registers as danger to our nervous system, leaving us, again, stuck in these cycles of chronic dysregulation. So remember back in video 1 when we talked about your window of tolerance, how it's like the difference between a huge swimming pool and a tiny glass of water, right? The pool absorbs stress easily and the glass of water gets overwhelmed right away. So when trauma and chronic stress distort the way our brain and body communicate, we start responding to everyday situations as though they're dangerous, even when they're not. And that keeps us living outside of our window of tolerance. And we spend more and more time there. Spending more time there actually narrows the window over time, making us even more sensitive to stress and overwhelm. So experiencing traumatic and chronic stress, it literally changes us. It changes our body and it changes our brain. And these changes are what drive chronic dysregulation. Our system is simply trying to sense the world, but it's using messages that are incomplete, distorted, or out of sync. So we feel overwhelmed by small things, right? We start to check out during normal moments. We spiral, snap, freeze, or fawn. And it's hard to stop even when we want to. And that doesn't mean you're failing. It just means that your system is stuck in protection mode. It's not your fault. It's a pattern your body put into place when it didn't feel safe, and it just never got the chance to update that pattern. Here's the good news, though. Patterns can change. And the most important thing I want you to take away from this video is that your nervous system, it might feel stuck right now, but it's not stuck forever. In fact, it's built to adapt. And with the right support, it can learn how to update. It can learn how to come back to balance. Just like your body knows how to heal a wound, your nervous system can recover from chronic and traumatic stress, not through force, not through willpower, but through gentle, repeated experiences of safety. Moments where your body feels a little more grounded, a little more connected, a little more okay. And that's exactly what this entire mini course is here to help you create. Not just for relief in the moment, but to actually rewire your system over time. Because the truth is, you're not broken, you're patterned, and patterns can change. If you haven't already, download the free workbook that goes along with this mini course. It's full of practices and prompts to help you integrate what you're learning in these videos so that it can become part of your life, not just something that you understand intellectually. Because knowledge is great and it's important, but real change only happens when we start to embody what we're learning. And if anything in this lesson resonated, drop a comment and let me know what you're taking in. I'd love to hear about what you're discovering about your own nervous system and your own patterns. And in our next lesson, we'll start shifting from awareness into action. And I'll walk you through simple practices that you can use in real time to help bring your system back to regulation. I'll see you over there.